and welcome to the Parents' Guide. This is where you'll find out what's going on in schools and hear some of the key issues being discussed from the parents' point of view. If you have school-aged children, this programme is for you.
We now got to do the final task of making your rocket, which is a nose cone. Hold the card, hold the two corners and bring them in together to make a cone. Make sure there's no gap there, so the sellotape covers the gap, and then we trim it round and put it on the nose of your bottle and hold it around with tape again.
This is a really good lesson because we don't usually do things like this. It's really fun.
We get to do some hands-on stuff rather than just like sitting and listening, which is really good because it's fun. You like listen to it more and remember it more.
Have you got your cone done yet?
It's superb to have outside agencies offer their assistance to create a practical package. We've done quite a good double act here today. I feel that we've both supported each other during the day, and it's been very beneficial for the children.
I think the children today enjoyed themselves, which is one of the main aims. But they also got the chance to hear a few technical terms used and have the terms explained to them, and then put them terms into use by building and then firing the water rocket. We used air pressure to push the water out when it got to a certain pressure and cause the rocket to lift off the pad. I told them a few basic laws of physics, Newton's law, reaction and action, explained that water cannot be compressed, and we talked about the fairness of the test.
Kieran, that looked like a lot of fun to me. Do you think it was inspiring for the children?
Absolutely. I couldn't say enough good things about that. It gave the children an opportunity to see a working adult come into the classroom and demonstrate to them some very exciting things that they can do. They were able to make rockets, all different shapes and sizes of rockets, and actually get to understand a few of the physical principles involved in getting those rockets to launch and what's happening. And there was a bit of a competitive element there as well, where they were timing how long they stayed up in the air. So I thought it was fantastic, and the children were obviously had a passion for it and were very excited. And
do you think those special moments that you particularly stick out in your memory of your primary school days are important in terms of later educational aspiration?
I think those first times that you come across something as exciting as making a rocket and a water rocket, you'll always remember the first time. So I think it's very important to get it right and to see that it can be exciting, and that's to see that when you leave school and become an adult and go into engineering or something, that you can see that there's a benefit to you, and what you learn you can take with you and use creatively, perhaps in an invention or something that you do in the future. And from little acorns, great oak trees grow.
Maria, bringing in outside experts, do you think they're good role models for primary school children?
Yeah, I think that was a really excellent idea, and one that I'd like to hear more about. I think if in our school we have a very innovative scheme. We have an Imagineering club where a volunteer parent comes in and engineer on a weekly basis and does similar experiments with the children. But it's only available for a few privileged children who can attend the club, and it would be really nice to think that that kind of exercise and experiment was available to all the children.
I mean, Anne, this is a scheme, obviously, I think a lot of parents will see that and think, well, why haven't I got that at my school? How widely available is it?
I think it's fairly widely available. There's not a huge take-up with schools on this kind of thing, although it's to be encouraged wherever possible. It's great to see it happening. It's lovely. Those children had a fantastic time and a great lesson. The principles that he was talking about teaching them, things like Newton's law and pressure, tend to come a little bit later in the curriculum. So I think as a first experience and an initial idea to get them going and fire their enthusiasm, as Kieran was saying, it was great. Just whether it was actually part of the primary curriculum as such, you know, it perhaps wasn't, but I think as an experience for the children, it was great.
But we all felt he was a good role model. I mean, the potential is there obviously for somebody to be not such a good role model if they're coming in from outside. Do you think that could be a problem?
It can be. I think one of the things that's important that we actually saw with the set point scheme there is that the outside people and the teachers work together and plan together to make sure that what they're doing actually matches in with some of the schoolwork that's going on. And so that way we can make it a meaningful experience.
I mean, Maria, we've seen some other examples in the programme of different types of experts coming in. Did you feel that the quality was variable between them?
In the examples that you showed us, I thought the quality was good across the board, but it was nice to see the female engineer on a later programme, particularly for the girls in the class. I think there is generally traditionally a poorer uptake in the science subjects later on in school, and it's, you know, it would perhaps be encouraging for the girls to see a female engineer coming into the class.
What about trying to tap into specialist skills that parents may have as scientists and try and bring them into the school rather than outside experts who have no connection?
Yeah, I mean, I know that our school does that, and I know other schools locally that do that, and I think it works very well. I mean, children, I think, like to see their parents coming in to talk about their subject. They're proud to see their parents participate.
And the planning with the school is obviously the key then. I mean, could it have negative effects if the expert didn't explain the concepts correctly to the children?
I think one of the things we know about children's learning is they do learn much better if they are engaged with that process. So rather than having an expert tell them when it may go over their heads and they don't quite engage with it, one of the art of teaching is to find out the children's idea, match it with the scientific idea and try and blend the two together and get the children actually learning it for themselves. So when you get an outside expert in, they're perhaps not skilled in some of those arts of teaching. That's not to say they're not brilliant role models, that they're giving children a wonderful experience, and it's certainly something that's well worth doing.
Well, to explore these ideas further, let's look at our next clip where we can see children learning about gravity, one of the most difficult science topics. In the clip, we visit Zoe Lowe again with teaching assistant Linda Williams and her Year 6 class. The children are using force meters and trying to distinguish between the terms weight and mass.
Are you looking at weight or mass?
Newtons in a gram. Times 10 will be 300.
Anybody got any measurements? Tony, I'm going to pick on yours. And what did you measure the globe to be?
9.
9 newtons. Anybody work with a chair? Sam?
It was 30...
Go on, help him out, Tom.
Well, it's 30 newtons and 300 grams.
OK, we'll come back to that in a minute because you've got grams drawn down there as well. Maddie?
We did the chair as well and we got 30 newtons and 300 grams.
In your books, what I'm going to want you to do is, I've got up on the board 3 sentence starters really, but I would like you, using all the things that we've talked about. Now, Astro Bear, our little friend, was somebody that helped us to think about mass and weight. We've also got the equipment that we have used that is connected to weight. We've got all our keywords up on the board. When you open your books up, what I'm expecting to see in there are some description of what you've learnt about those 3 things today.
What else can you say?
To the centre. Mass is the stuff we have inside us.
Wow.
Gravity on the moon is so little compared to the amount the Earth makes.
So Maria, weight and mass, these are quite complicated subjects now. Do you think she tackled it well and that the children were starting to think in a scientific way?
Yes, I do. I think it is quite a complicated subject to teach, but she again had the keywords up on the board and she used the Astro Bear and the other resources very well. They were available to each table. And after doing the experiments, the children had to explain what they did in their own words using the sentence starters, so she was clear that everybody understood the message that she was trying to get across.
It's complicated for parents though. I mean, did you know the difference before you started watching the lesson between the two?
I had to think about it very hard, very carefully. As I say, it seems a long time, you know, I think when I was at school, I don't remember doing that in primary school, and I was a little bit surprised that they were doing that in Year 6 again. And that I am often surprised by the things that they're taught in science at school, pleasantly surprised, and the children bring subjects home that they might want to explore a bit further, deeper at home.
And what sort of help would you want then to be able to help them to do that?
Well, they you know, again, they'll advise us at school as to where, if we don't know ourselves, where to obtain information about a particular subject, websites that might be useful or books that might be useful, references, and that might be included in the child's homework on some occasions, which is very useful. And even projects that we can do with the children, how we can relate everyday activities at home to their science projects that they're doing at school, such as cooking or you know, if you're bathing the child, the younger children, you know, weights in the bath, what sinks, what floats, that kind of thing, and relate it back to perhaps what they're doing at school. And
do you think it's reasonable for parents to have to invest all this time in understanding complicated scientific concepts?
I don't think it's going to happen in reality. I think it's too much to ask of any parent to have to understand all the sort of more complicated issues. But one of the ways that parents really could help is by helping their child to recognise those bits that they think they're having trouble with. So if you can work with your child to say, well, that's a bit that's causing me problems, then the child can go back into school and say to the teacher, that's a bit that's troubling me, and hopefully the teacher can deal with that.
Kieran, do you think it's reasonable, though, that parents should have to have this quite a high level of scientific knowledge to be able to support their children?
I know there's always reference books, and now we've got the internet, that you can very quickly find the exact answer to, or the exact explanation of a subject, and you know you're going to get it right most of the time.
But have you got the time to do that? If you're an average parent who's got the time to be on the internet looking up scientific terms?
Personally, I have to make that time, and I can see it with my children, and they're only 6 and 4. I can see that they are going to be asking me more and more difficult questions, and I need to be able to give them the answers rather than fobbing them off all the time and saying, oh, I'll tell you on the weekend. So I do think we need to have easier access, and I do think we need to be prepared to make the time to answer those questions for the children properly.
Maria, do you think science ought to be made a special case of? Because it is so different maybe to English and maths, and parents, you know, most parents would read with their children anyway, but they may not sit down and look up scientific terms on the internet.
Speaking as a parent, I think it's enjoyable sometimes when the children bring questions home to find out the answers together and explore them. And not everybody has access to the internet, not everybody has computers at home, but there's libraries that are accessible to everybody. We regularly use the library and go down and explore the answers to questions together.
So you think the earlier the better? I mean, you've got no problems with children of 4 or 5 coming home with these difficult concepts and trying to help them with that?
No, absolutely not. I think it's necessary today, and it's enjoyable.
Well, I think most parents would agree with that comment, but we have to end it there. You can have your say, though, by emailing parents@teachers.tv, and you can find all the information about the programmes you've seen and more on our website at Teachers TV. Details at the end of the programme. Thanks to my guests, Anne, Kieran and Maria.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
And for myself, Fiona Miller. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, goodbye.